There's a sentence people react to strongly when they first hear it. You don't actually want to heal. It sounds confrontational. It sounds dismissive. What it usually is accurate in a very specific way. Most people who say they want to heal are sincere. They're not lying to themselves. They're responding to real discomfort. What they want is relief. Relief from tension, relief from confusion, relief from patterns that feel exhausting to maintain. Healing, though, isn't the same thing as relief. Relief reduces symptoms. Healing reorganizes identity. That distinction matters more than people expect. Because identity doesn't dissolve simply because something hurts. It dissolves when the role it plays is no longer needed. Many patterns people want to heal are still doing important work. They regulate relationships. They create belonging. They provide orientation. Even suffering can organize a life. Someone who has carried anxiety for years may not enjoy it, but they know how to live with it. They've built routines around it. They've built explanations around it. They've built a self-image that accommodates it. When that anxiety disappears, the person doesn't just feel calmer. They lose a familiar reference point. That loss is rarely discussed. Healing is often framed as addition, more peace, more freedom, more authenticity. In practice, healing usually involves subtraction. You lose the justification you've been using. You lose the explanation that made certain choices feel inevitable. You lose the identity that formed around managing the problem. That loss creates uncertainty. Uncertainty doesn't feel like success. It feels like exposure. This is why people can work on the same issue for years without it fully resolving. They're improving the experience of the pattern rather than releasing the pattern itself. They learn how to manage it better. They learn how to talk about it more clearly. They learn how to function with it. All of that can be useful. It also keeps the structure intact. At a certain point, healing asks a different question. Who are you without this? That question isn't philosophical. It's practical. How do you relate to people when you're not managing this pattern? How do you make decisions when you're not compensating for it? How do you spend your time when the struggle no longer structures your day? Those questions don't have immediate answers. They open space. Space is what many people are actually avoiding. They say they want healing. What they often want is improvement without loss. That's understandable. Loss feels risky. It threatens continuity. For people who learned early in life that continuity equals safety, loss feels dangerous, even when it's healthy. So the system negotiates. It allows partial relief. It allows insight. It allows emotional processing. It resists resolution. This resistance isn't sabotage, it's protection. The system is protecting coherence until coherence can be rebuilt around something else. The old structure stays in place. This is why some breakthroughs feel temporary. The insight is real. The emotion is real. The identity isn't ready to reorganize around it yet, so things drift back. People often blame themselves for this. They assume they didn't try hard enough. They assume they missed a step. They assume they're resistant to change. What's more accurate is that they're loyal to a structure that still serves a purpose. That purpose may not be conscious. It may be relational. It may be cultural. It may be tied to belonging, usefulness, or safety. Healing asks for honesty about that purpose. Not judgment, not force. Honesty. What would be disrupted if this pattern disappeared? Who would you be without it? What expectations would no longer make sense? Those questions don't need to be answered right away. They need to be tolerated. Many people rush to heal because the discomfort is loud. They underestimate the discomfort of reorientation. Reorientation is quieter but deeper. It's the discomfort of standing without an explanation, without a story that organizes why things are the way they are. That can feel destabilizing. So people return to familiar pain rather than unfamiliar openness. They say they want healing. They keep what healing would remove. This isn't failure, it's timing. Healing tends to complete when the identity that formed around the wound has finished its work. That work might be learning boundaries, might be surviving a certain environment, it might be maintaining connection when other options weren't available. Once that work is complete, the pattern loses necessity. It doesn't need to be fought, it fades. People often experience this as healing happening on its own. They say things like, I stopped reacting that way and didn't notice at first. Or, it just doesn't come up anymore. That's healing integrated at the identity level. Before that point, effort tends to produce management rather than resolution. That management isn't wasted, it's preparatory. It builds awareness, it builds capacity. It prepares the system for a different organization. My name is Nemo, and I help people like you access past lives and contact their higher self in 3 hours or less. I say that here because people who come to that work are often at a stage where management has run its course. They're not trying to fix themselves. They're noticing that something foundational is ready to complete. The work doesn't force healing. It creates a context where the system can release what it no longer needs to carry. That release isn't dramatic. It often feels anticlimactic. There's no victory lap. There's no sense of arrival. There's just less weight, less internal negotiation, less justification. Life continues, but with fewer compensations built into it. If you're listening to this and feel conflicted, that makes sense. Part of you may genuinely want relief. Another part may know what relief would cost. Both parts are intelligent. Healing doesn't require choosing one over the other. It requires letting the system decide when it's ready to reorganize. Until then, there's nothing wrong with working with what's here. Just be honest about what you're doing. Are you easing pain? Or are you preparing for a different structure? Both are valid. Confusion often comes from pretending they're the same. When healing is ready, it doesn't need to be chased. It happens with very little effort. Patterns fall away without ceremony. Old stories lose relevance. Energy redirects itself. Until then, the most honest thing you can do is notice what still serves you, even if you don't like it. That honesty shortens the distance to real change. You don't need to rush healing. It arrives when the identity that needed the wound has finished forming. Give that process the time it needs. Nothing important is being delayed.